Hey, everybody. Today is April 18th, 2026, and you're listening to the While We Still Can podcast, where we talk about Missouri news, national news, international intrigue, and anything that's on our mind. I'm here with Tina, and Tony Andrews is back with us again. Anthony Andrews, Anthon7Y Andrews on Twitter. Sorry, formerly known as Twitter, currently known as X, and he's an internet sleuth and our BFF. Hey, guys. Welcome
Hey,
back.
thank you. And I do want to share, I've decided to take the knife to myself and go on to TikTok. So I'm, as you know, I'm being much more prominent on TikTok. I am definitely not well versed in how to use it, but I'm just using it however I can. And I have the silliest TikTok name there is in the world. I know a lot of people have actually been looking for my TikTok and looking for Anthony Andrews or Anthon7 Andrews. It's actually Tony's TikTok.
Tony's TikTok.
Tony's?
Very accurate.
Yes, Tony's TikTok.
Okay, so we'll all look for you over on TikTok. I don't think
And
that,
I'll link
I'm
it
not one to
below.
say because I usually record something and then think it looks stupid and so I delete it. But I think the only way to do it is just to throw it out there, Tony.
Well, and that's what that's what I've been doing. You've seen my recent videos where, I'm sometimes a little inebriated because just something came to my mind, but I just, I don't care. I used to be very vain about my looks, obviously. Those years are long gone. I don't give a shit anymore what people think
Same
about me.
here.
Yeah. I'm like, I just turned 52. I don't care.
Yeah. So, I am just putting it all out there. However, it
putting
needs
it
to
all
come.
out there, like Kristi Noem's husband, all out there.
Wow.
Okay, before we get started, speaking of hot girl days being over, that's the most freeing thing when it comes to Halloween. Okay, like my Halloween costumes were on fucking point as soon as I did not care about looking hot on Halloween. Just so you know, so it does have its silver linings. Okay, then I could be Lieutenant Dan. Okay.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
I will say, being a gay male who spent plenty of Halloweens in the Castro in San Francisco and in West Hollywood, having lived down there as well, in Chicago, as well as numerous other cities, when I did have that great body, my costumes consisted of very little.
Right.
That's just the way.
Tony rolling up in a fig leaf.
Yeah.
Funny you say that.
He's Greek. Oh, funny you say that.
My sister one year, she knows how Randy and I are crazy about Halloween back in the day, and now I just do it in my yard. No, I don't get undressed in my yard. You know what my Halloween displays are now. But my sister made us a green giant and what's his little sidekick's name? The green giant Sprout costumes one year that we were gonna wear. She actually hand sewed them all together, and we put them on, and we were like, not revealing enough, so we went and got other costumes.
Yeah. You might have to break back out the green giant and the little sprout,
Off some leaves. It'll be okay.
Exactly. So anyway, we've got plenty to talk about today.
Yeah, sorry, I had to squirrel. Okay,
There's
give us all the updates.
Today too. Yeah.
Is there?
The mood is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
It's shifting.
Yeah, not so much me today, but I will be open for it tomorrow. But that's just me.
It's in the mainstream media now, like, hey, what happened to those 10, 11, 12 scientists?
Yes. My goodness.
Yes. Common ground fields. That's really in the mainstream now.
Yeah. Things are starting to hit. I mean, the scientists missing really has to beg the question what exactly, they knew or were working on.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was, there's fusion. I was, versed in nuclear power, having been a nuke in the Navy. So, I mean, I know a little more about most people about, the process involved, and fusion technology is truly the future. It really is. So it makes me wonder why, especially the breakthroughs that have happened over the last couple of years, it makes me wonder what's going on. Are they trying to hide something, a breakthrough of sorts that they finally found? Because cold fusion has always been the key to everything. Because if we can...
We won't fight wars anymore over oil.
Yeah. It's pretty simple, really.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't charge us for oil, and power if we can make it in our backyard or, you know.
So, and I think, we can use Occam's razor, as a base here, which is, what seems to be the most obvious is probably the most obvious. I would think that they probably successfully sustained cold fusion for a long period of time, showing that we can probably uh, create essentially free power for everybody. And that's the last thing in the world the people in power want right now.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's reminds me of that MIT guy. Like that's immediately what I thought as soon as he got killed outside of his whatever. But yeah, I was like, ooh, no, he figured it out.
Absolutely. And cold fusion really is, I mean, it is, it will be the breakthrough that will put us into the era of sci-fi, the flying cars and anything else you can possibly think of. Cold fusion will put us on the path to that. And when you look at the other part of nuclear technology that they've been focusing on, it's micro reactors, micro nukes, everything compacted. And one of the things we know that they've been working on is literally transportable nuclear reactors. Like they can carry it on a semi truck to a location that allows them to put power somewhere. Now, the technology like that is something that, even if it's our current nuclear technology through fission rather than cold fusion, it's something that, any natural disaster that occurs, it would immediately fix the problem. I mean, there's so many repercussions of even advanced micro nuclear technology, let alone once we surpass the obstacles having to do with cold fusion. So you really have to look at what they're suppressing and why these people are disappearing and dying.
I have to say that this conversation makes me think of that movie from the 90s. It had Elizabeth Shue and Val Kilmer. It might have been called The Saint, but I can't remember. Do you remember? She was a fusion scientist.
I've never seen it.
Anyway,
neither have I.
And then that makes me think of I'll Google it here in a minute. So we've been watching The Blacklist, the series that was on network TV. And I gotta tell you, some of these storylines, I'm like, who wrote this? Who wrote this? Because a common thread is there's a thing called the cabal, which
they've been telling us for years. They've been telling us for years.
And then some of the storylines are literally kind of spot on to what we are, different things in the world that we're seeing. I'm just really, I need to understand who wrote this and why and how, because your own imagination only goes so far.
Well, and the craziness about it too is, unexpectedly, honestly, is the Epstein involvement in every bit of this. I mean, there was that movie with
Kubrick?
What's his?
With the Eyes Wide Shut.
No, not that one. That's a whole other, one where they were telling us out in front. I'm talking about The Island with. And they, and they were basically cloning people for parts, and who's to say that.
Or that Get Out movie. Remember Get Out?
Get Out.
I never saw that.
Yeah, I never saw it,
Lisa.
but I was familiar with it. Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God. Watch that shit tonight, guys. It is exactly what we're fucking dealing with. The Saint.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got
some.
So
there's, they've been telling us for years, and the, the Hollywood insiders have been privy to a lot of this information because of their access to the people at the highest levels. I mean, I pointed out that Steven Spielberg was part of Mega Group, which was the Jewish study group with Les Wexner and Robert Maxwell, which likely became under the guide of Jeffrey Epstein. So there's so much people don't understand about all of this. It'll come in time.
Yeah. So guys, you can't enjoy anything. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. But positivity. There is positivity.
Okay. Do you have any? Well, these might not be positive, but what about Amanda Ungaro? What updates do we have?
Amanda update.
So Courier dropped a story this morning, authored by Katie Chenoweth and one other person. I'm sorry, I don't know the other person's name. And Courier is also very connected to the Oversight Committee. So this is one of our route that we have as a group that's getting Amanda, positioned to be able to talk to them. At the end of the Courier article today, they asked her if she was willing to talk to oversight. She said, absolutely, yes, she is.
The Oversight Committee.
The
United
House
States Congress.
Yep, United States Congress House Oversight Committee. Our group actually has direct access to some of the people in the Oversight Committee, so we are actively trying to navigate things in a way that we can help Amanda as well as other survivors get their story out there in front of the world. Obviously there's question about the motivations of a Republican-led Oversight Committee, which we've seen, numerous things that have not, gone the way we would have hoped, including, the lack of the release of more files, the subpoena of Pam Bondi not showing up, and the steps that they are taking steps, it appears, to get her to get in front of them. But the question is whether or not that will really happen, given the information we know she has.
Well, and the thing with that is also, like, we already know she's guilty, lying, everything. So I don't know, like, I'm not like super hung up on that subpoena. Like, obviously this is lawless and shit, but like, nothing she says is going to change anybody's mind about anything. But sorry, continue.
Well, and I think too, I think you're right on the spot on there. And this is part of the biggest problem we have with everything right now. Everybody literally wants to hear a specific thing come out of somebody's mouth that is going to be so damning that it takes everybody down. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Some magic bullet type.
Yes. I let's say, everybody wants Amanda to get in front of the world and say, she saw Melania get tag teamed by Paulo and Trump or something,
I mean,
I'm not saying it's not a possibility, and let me clarify, I was never told anything
allegedly,
like that.
hypothetically, for entertainment purposes.
Yes, exactly, for entertainment purposes only. But that's the type of stuff that people almost keep demanding on hearing. And one of the things I posted yesterday is I said, you all want these survivors to take down this regime, rather than paying attention 10 years ago when we already had fires going on that people weren't paying attention to. And I also shared a list of all the documents Trump stole that were related to our defense.
That was a great list.
And the thing is everybody's sitting here waiting rather than actually investing in information. I have people coming at me all the time on X right now, and of course I can handle it because this isn't my first rodeo, but they're like, well, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, have you even read my pin thread? I have no concern about my credibility and what I'm achieving and trying.
They're
to
like,
do.
No, we can't read. Do you have an audio version? And you're like, as a matter of fact, I do.
It's like we've talked about a million times, like anything all this is in the public sphere, and it doesn't do any good they're not going to arrest anybody. They would be arresting themselves. So until we can vote some new people in, and I'm sorry nobody wants to hear that, but we have to vote new people in so that they make changes to get some justice here.
And you're absolutely right. I try to find ways to engage with people, especially in my work environment now, because I work with a diverse group of people. And if I get a chance at lunch or something, I may ask somebody something about, what do they know about what's going on in the world. And most people, like a girl I talked to last night, she's like, oh, I just chose not to vote. And she was African American, and she said, well, Biden couldn't pay attention to anything, and blah blah blah. She was a young girl, but still in voting age. And I said, did you know that there was a targeted effort on social media towards African Americans, telling them not to vote?
Yep.
And she kind of like, that kind of makes sense. And because she had seen some stuff, and I'm like, and I explained, I said, this is exactly what we're dealing with. There is a concerted effort where these people are spending millions of dollars and supported by foreign nations that are interfering in our election, that are putting stuff in front of your face while you're on social media because of the data and algorithms that's feeding information to you so that you act and respond the way that they want you to.
It's literally the new warfare, like propaganda.
Yeah. And And it was interesting. I think she actually kind of woke up a little bit, and it's those
Yep,
small conversations that we need to
it
continue to
absolutely
have
is.
every day.
Every
Every day.
day. Every time I'm checking out at the grocery store, the girl's like, "How's your day?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Did you watch the news?" And they're like, "Oh God, oh God." And I'm like, "I'll go to the self checkout next time. I just needed a little dopamine to come over here and pester you." But like I said, that one time I was checking out and the girl was like, "Are you the one who puts the Jeffrey Epstein Trump photos in the bathroom?" And I'm like,
Oh my God.
"Shh. Yes, it is, baby girl." And so she pulled up a picture of it on her phone. She took a picture with it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I
So,
had some.
you know,
That is awesome. That is awesome. I had somebody come up
it
to me the
is.
other day,
That's you
and
being
they're
a menace in the best way possible.
Oh, everywhere
exactly.
I go gets that fucking picture. What are we talking about? Okay, sorry, keep going. Okay.
So, I had another woman come up to me the other day, and she's like, "Hey, Tony, what's this?" And it was a screenshot of me being on Billy Bush the other day. And I'm like, "Oh, well, if you've got a little time, let me tell you a little bit about it."
Yeah.
But it's getting out there. People know that there's an effort, and that's, we've talked about it from the beginning. I said from the beginning, nothing's going to fix this except us at the
Yeah,
grassroots, building momentum and getting
it's
people
true.
engaged in this, and we are doing that. We are
We
doing that.
are.
Yeah,
And
We
the
are.
I've been
tide's turning.
fortunate.
Good
I've
things
been
are going to
fortunate.
happen.
Exactly. And I've been fortunate enough to position myself in a way that the amount of energy and time I put into this stuff has attracted attention from people that are involved in some of these things. And that's how Amanda got in touch with me. And, her story today, I think, it wasn't, uh, you know, uh, the breaking news that everybody exactly wanted, but it definitely had bits and pieces of stuff that people needed to see and hear, especially about Paolo Zampolli and how he acts towards women, how he acted towards her, how he acts towards his child. Just before we got on this podcast, I actually posted some videos that she had sent me back in the end of March. I think it was about March 22nd, she sent me. So almost a month ago, that I had held on to. And they were videos, 3 different videos of their Gramercy Place home, Paulo's diplomatic home. And I think that's 5 or 6 stories. And
That we're
so,
paying for.
yeah. And essentially, Giovanni, their son, has his own room, which is kind of his own floor type of thing, because, it's just them. And uh, the 3 videos were of his all of his belongings and everything, and basically along that entire floor having been torn out of drawers pulled out, and basically as if somebody went in there and
And ransacked.
ransacked it. Yeah, and no,
Which is
and
abusive behavior. That's abusive
exactly.
behavior.
And I had asked Amanda, I said, was this connected to the weekend on Memorial Day 2024, where Gio was trying to go back to school? And I posted that video as well, where Paulo's sitting in the entryway to that Gramercy place with the police. And that's what the RAI teaser video led with, was that video. So that also solidified the information we have and how critical it is to stuff explaining the story. And she said, no, that instance with the clothing and the ransacking of the room was a completely different instance. And I said, what led to it? And she said, no, nothing. There was nothing had happened. Paulo, just in his sometimes drug-induced state, just gets a little nuts and starts doing things like that. And she had also explained in the Courier article today, when asked a question, how her modeling career ended because of Paulo, where she had a modeling gig that she was supposed to go to, and he punched her in the face and left a mark, and she wasn't able to attend the shoot because of the way she had been abused. I mean, this is serious stuff that everybody needs to listen to. And this is a guy
And these are
that,
people in charge that are making decisions about your life and making deals with other countries and like really big consequential shit. And he's an
and
abusive asshole.
yeah, and let's just say also, none of us voted this guy in.
No.
No, he was appointed,
Right.
and
And
he's
are
walked
we deporting everybody? Like, come on, bro. He ain't from
exactly.
here.
exactly. And I want to make it clear, and I called out to America this morning, and I said, hey, guys, we need to ask Melania to come forward. We need to insist on Melania coming forward. And I'm not going to accept the bullshit. I had nothing to do with any of this stuff, because that's complete bullshit. We all know it. She knows it.
Right.
And rather than putting the weight of the world on the shoulders of survivors who've been trying to tell their story for years, in many cases, why don't we put the weight of the world on the first lady, who was brought to the country by this man and was directly associated with Jeffrey Epstein for decades. And
Yes. Why are you coming here and ruining shit, lady? Come on.
so
And I
anyway,
would appeal to her story. I mean, perhaps she has had experiences that one would classify as a victim or a survivor. And so, you know, from one woman to another, I'd like to hear her story. What have you been through? What have you had to tolerate? God only knows what she's had to tolerate. So
But
let us
again,
know.
we can say that, but again, can you believe a word that comes out of her mouth?
well,
Because she did just get on TV and fucking lie.
well, no, and that's where you're absolutely right. Because the one thing I've had to deal with a lot of too, when I look at comments towards Amanda in her feed, trying to help her navigate things, is everybody saying, well, why she was in the middle of this for 20 years. Why did she come forward now? And I'm like, you don't understand the story. You don't understand the level of abuse that she had. And
Yeah.
when she did finally come forward, she's actually telling the truth about her circumstances. Instead, the First Lady of the United States is literally using the White House platform, getting in front of a podium with our presidential seal on it, and telling the world lies.
It is really depressing. That part of it is really disgusting. Like what did our family members go? What did Tony go and fight in the military for? For this woman to stand up there and lie. It's just like the ultimate kick in the balls. I don't know.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
No,
Perhaps from her perspective, she seems, trapped or without many options. But um, I'm all for a redemption arc. If she
yeah,
could come forward and, tell us.
I don't know if she has it in her, but
yeah. So anyway, the other thing with the Rye interview is just the fact that Paulo has continued to illegally detain his son. The court ordered his son to be under the custody of his mother. Then Paulo pulled strings to have all this, manipulation through the government, help him, get her and her husband detained, as well as uh, then leading to her subsequent detainment by ICE, which now puts a wrench into things, and even just her basic ability to see her son. She can't come to the United States just to see her son because of these alleged fraudulent charges that are out there. And
right.
the justice system that's involved in this, especially the ones in Florida directly involved in this, are slow rolling everything. Her husband has told me there's been several instances where the prosecutor has been like, oh, I'm sick today, so we're going to have to delay again, or oh, the paperwork's
Pulling
not
some
ready, so
Eileen Cannons.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, this in time will all be revealed, but I think, people need to understand the highest levels involved in all of this, and why Amanda can't just necessarily come out and say, uh, this is exactly what you want to hear. She knows it. I have no doubt. She hasn't told me. It's not my place to ask her to tell me certain things about what had happened. I did encourage yesterday both her and Zhao to maybe share some information with me that would just be enough to get people's attention. Like, yeah, when
Juicy.
when I was sitting at the table at, last Christmas or 2 Christmases ago at Mar-a-Lago with Melania and Trump, you could smell the stench of Trump's diaper. That
Yeah,
alone,
just a little,
just a little
little something to
confirmation of stuff
dig.
we know, you know,
Yeah.
because that's meat for the sharks out there. But it also raises the level of attention in terms of what information she has. She was in the circle for 20 years. 20 years side by side with the vice
I mean,
president or the
I would
president of
just
the
straight
United
up
States.
ask her about that shitty ass Depends. Just be like, how bad was it? Scale 1 to 10. You think he had a diaper rash? How long? Who was wiping that shit? Like, I need to know.
And and then you've got the other thing with the story is the coke fueled parties, and she mentions in the Courier story about Paulo just was constantly party at their home, the Gramercy home in New York City, and where they had a home in DC. It was just constant party. Specifically in New York City, she said that they went 6 years without having any intimate relations, but Paulo would constantly hire prostitutes to come to their home for these parties, and that's who he would sleep with in another room. Usually Giovanni, their son, who was present, along with Amanda, would just go into their room together and just let whatever party is happening through the house happen, and the dad would do whatever he would do with these prostitutes. And she also said go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, please finish your thought.
In the Courier interview, she did specifically say that in DC, she was present in these parties where she would see older men with children, with young girls, 14, 15,
Yeah.
16-year-old girls at these parties again. And this was DC. She knew, and I know if we could pull out a book of all congressmen and senators, as if it's a lineup when you go to the police to report somebody, I bet you she could point out a few people with some of those young children at these coke fueled parties. And we have all the evidence out there. It's been said, Madison Cawthorn got thrown out of the GOP because he talked about coke filled orgies with Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham.
Well, could you imagine turtle ass Mitch McConnell?
Sorry. So what would be her reply, do you suppose, if she was asked, why would you stay in that situation?
It would be that she was completely controlled by Paolo Zampolli. I mean,
so she couldn't leave if she wanted to?
She could not leave if she wanted to. He would actually take their passports and visas sometimes and hide them so that they didn't even have access to it. I mean, that's the level of control he had over them, both the child and mother, is along with all of this other emotional, psychological, physical abuse. In the Rye teaser that they showed, and I translated for everybody online. He talks about telenovelas, and Paulo talks about Brazilian women being addicted to telenovelas and yada yada yada.
Yeah, just trying to fucking.
Yeah. And I've heard, and that is a specific form of abuse that he has used on Amanda for more than 2 decades. I mean, I literally have an email from 2011 where he's mocking her about getting a job, and he's talking to somebody in the email about, oh, maybe somebody can has a job for a telenovela critic for her.
Right,
and,
just being a butt.
Just being an asshole. And even on this Rye video, he talks about telenovelas and the Brazilian women and all of this. And if the translation, I've had a couple people help me with the translation. So obviously translation is a challenge sometimes in some of these things. But he said something to the extent of, yes, I effed her and blah, 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 talking about Amanda and all of this other stuff. And, I mean, it's clear he has no
empathy. He's a
empathy.
Sociopath.
Yeah, and there's so much more to it. And even in the things that I've been privy to, and I haven't shared publicly in terms of stuff that I know has happened, I had shared that he had offered money to her and Victoria Drake recently. In fact, Victoria Drake, that was back in just a week or so ago when they were in Hungary, when Paolo Zampolli was with our vice president in Hungary. He's calling and harassing his victim in the United States. And part of that was trying to get her to settle with him. And she has addressed, I got on a TikTok with her the other night randomly. She was doing a TikTok live, and I'm like, let me just jump in. And it was interesting. She talked with me for an hour, and she did talk about that, about the fact that yes, she was in text. She was talking about settling, but she said all of that money is going to go to charity, and it's not about trying to get money. She's in a position of wealth. She grew up pretty wealthy, so she's not in the need for that. But she wants Paulo to pay in one way or the other for his actions, and ultimately, the real justice is paying legally for his actions, meaning going to jail for raping a woman and
Because
drugging.
he's a predator. He's a
Exactly.
predator.
Yes. So, people need to wake the fuck up and just pay attention to what we already know that's out there, because everything that Amanda is saying is stuff we're all pretty sure has been going on.
For the 800th time, the media has dropped the ball. Maybe now that TMZ is focusing on DC, they'll focus on that.
Yeah, we're going to get fascism gone so fast with TMZ. I'm not even kidding. Okay, but speaking of their breaking reporting yesterday, it was like at the top of my feed, they asked RFK if it was true if he chopped the penis off of a raccoon on the side of the road. And so they were following him around asking him that, is this true? And he gave them no response. So I guess the rumor is true that he is obsessed with dead animals' penises, which is fucking weird, guys.
And he is
I'm Googling, though. It says TMZ is owned by Fox Corporation. So
well, TMZ has always been, is it Mark Levin who is the TMZ guy? They've always been, or Harvey Levin, they've always been, kind of along the same level of Inquirer, which was, catch and suppress,
catch and kill.
Catch and kill stories and stuff like that. So, I would hope that TMZ would do the right thing, but, to be honest, I just don't have faith in any, U.S. media of any sorts.
I'm just going to say, I did not know that RFK chopped the wiener off of a raccoon, so I feel more up to date.
And that's great, but how is that actually, other than it being clickbait and, getting us talking about it, how is it actually fixing our situation?
It's not, but it's another data point that he's a weird SOB.
Well, it's the data point that you were asking for earlier about the shitty ass diaper.
Exactly.
Get me in.
Oh, and I agree 100%. And I think eventually people are going to, we're seeing people fall off. I had someone ask me to join a Spaces the other day, and she wants to do a longer Spaces with me, but they were actively in a space. And I had 10 minutes before I had to be at work, and I was like, sure, I'll jump in for two minutes. So I jumped in, and it turned out I talked for probably 5 minutes, and it turns out she decided to read my pinned thread to the entire group of people that was listening to the Spaces. So she actually read it from beginning to end. I had to get off the call, but I'm like, that's amazing, because people need to see the truth and understand everything that's connected to the social. And she leans more conservative on the right.
Right.
Well, speaking of conservatives, this week was huge because two things happened. One, the Trump offended the Pope, which, alienates a lot of the Catholics in America. Mm-hmm. Even if you've really been like invested in this as a Catholic person in America, that's going to knock some people off the train.
Yeah, like the child rape was like no big deal because obviously you're Catholic, but
and then he, the whole meme with him looking like Jesus and then saying he was a doctor, which maybe they told him it looked doctored, I don't know. But
I did see somebody say that, and I'm like, that Occam's razor.
That's exactly what I can see it. I know.
So the same concept with evangelical people and a lot of the folks in the Christian community, they can tolerate a lot, but that's pretty blasphemous for them to accept. So,
exactly.
Every week I feel like he's alienating more and more people, which that can only go on so long before the tide turns.
And the problem is how are we preparing for the tide to turn? And what I mean by that is
What are we doing?
They are not going to give up power.
No.
Yes, it is very important that we vote and we have a blue wave and we do all the things that our democracy demands that we do, other than the fact that most people are not uh, uh, being, doing their duty as American citizens and being well informed with facts. That's our biggest problem right now. But the reality is we need to prepare for what he's going to do to stop the transition of power, because there is just zero way he's going to give up Congress. Zero.
None of them.
Yeah.
They're not leaving. So like how do we force that?
Okay, that's a good question. So looking at our power structure right now, who do you think should be spearheading the thought process about responding to violence upon the next election? Not seating the Congress people that are elected, that type of thing.
My honest opinion is I don't know if we have anybody currently elected in the government that can do that. So I believe it needs to be the people that were pushed out, specifically like the military generals. I think our generals should help spearhead the preparation and the voice of America in terms of how are we going to counter this from happening.
Because that's going to take organization. It's going to take communication
and Chuck Schumer sure as fuck ain't got none of that.
Schumer ain't doing
He needs to go. Like, go, brother. Go. Get out.
Well, and at this point, anybody that's taken money from Israel needs to go.
Which is virtually everyone, by the way.
Yeah.
And I read correctly that there were only like 10 members of Congress that weren't taking money from Israel?
You did.
Yeah.
You absolutely did.
And that's exactly, first and foremost, I think that's a priority. I think people are finally realizing the influence that Israel has had over our elected officials for decades now, which has put us to this point. I think, I keep going back to the Steele dossier, and one of the very first things in the Steele dossier that was written was about how in this entire operation way back then, they were actually happy with or okay with the fact that Russia was being somewhat villainized as the forefront of this connection to Trump, because, and it says specifically in the document, because it kept attention away from his connections to other emerging powers, is what the words they used, and other third world countries that are becoming emerging powers, which you can say is Saudi Arabia, which you can say is Israel's not a third world power, but they've gained everything they've gained by basically ripping off the wealthiest.
And a side note here is I don't even want anybody to come at us for being anti-Semitic for having this conversation, because criticizing a country's government has absolutely nothing to do with being against a religion or a group of people. I'm talking about their government.
Bibi Netanyahu's government.
Yep, and I second that. And people need to understand, if you don't know, Bibi Netanyahu is already an international criminal who has warrant out for his arrest by the International Criminal Court, along with Putin. And imagine, at some point in the future, so will Donald Trump. No doubt in my mind.
If he survives that long from natural causes.
Exactly.
The devil fucking hangs on. It feeds them shit. Well, and earlier when we were talking about Melania and her maybe redeeming herself, I wanted to talk about Ashley St. Clair. Has anybody been seeing Ashley St. Clair, who is Elon's 13th baby's mom?
Yeah, remind us, who is she? What does she do? What is she about?
She used to be a TPUSA big person.
She was a turning point.
Yes. And she was groomed into being a right-wing talking head, essentially. Okay. And I think Elon proposed something to her, and she was in the cult. But after he totally screwed her over after getting her pregnant and her getting ostracized from the right wing community because they don't like single moms, and so she ended up being like, oh, this is crazy. But she was groomed from childhood.
The leopard went after her face.
It did, and she absolutely admits it. Like she's
Yeah.
like, I was a fucking idiot, but now she is spilling the tea on all of them.
Was she
All
I
putting
of
it
think,
the
out there
right.
on
well,
Yeah,
TikTok or
she's
where's she
like,
at?
you're fuck. Yeah, oh yeah, and
Okay.
and
she's
let
like,
me
what?
and let me point out that I think this movement that we're seeing is going to empower more and more people to do so. I had a woman reach out to me this morning on Threads, and she says, I'm a victim of all of this as well, and I've tried to get help, and I've got no help. Is there any way that how do I get connected with the House Committee? And I said, send me a DM. I at least have some connections, fortunately,
Right.
now
I
that
will
I can
try to
help.
help you with the tools
Yes.
Yeah.
that I have. And as a community, as a human being in this world, in this moment, if you're not helping people, then you're hindering, you're a problem. So
And
people are going to start telling their truths because they feel comfortable now because they feel like there is a enough people talking about it that they will be
Yeah.
believed and
They've
they
reached a
can get the
tipping
help.
point.
and there's
And
one
go
thing
ahead.
I want to kind of add to this, and it has to do with Sasha Barros. And we've seen how that drama has evolved, and he's essentially ruined his own credibility through his own actions and the way that he's speaking and what he's done. And I can tell you, Ed Opperman and I had been talking about this since the get-go, and I want to make it very clear that Sasha had the opportunity to connect with people that would help him approach this in the right way, and he chose not to. I personally left him a message on Threads months ago saying, hey, I'm involved with the group of people that can really help you build your credibility. And he was not interested. He just didn't reply to me, but until one point he hearted my message. And it was the second message I sent to him, which was, hey, I just want you to know, based off the information I see about Lisa Volding, I think you should be very careful with your story.
Right.
And that was eventually what he did was he hearted that, acknowledging what I had said. And he had replied to me on several other instances where I'd commented on things that he was saying. Randy just got in the car. Things that he was saying. And it told me that something quite wasn't right here because he wasn't reaching out properly to people. And Ed Opperman had originally been in
Yeah,
contact with him
he
July
blew
last
him
year.
off.
Yeah, and he blew off Ed. And then again, a couple months ago, after the story broke so big, he basically catfished Ed again or ghosted Ed after agreeing to do the right thing, and go on his show. So we have a number of indications. My door's closed. We have number of indications that show that his actions weren't in good faith from the beginning, from what I can tell, and especially given his response and the way he's handling things now with what his ex-wife is saying and everything else. He's just destroyed his own credibility. And that's what we need to realize is, the people that are coming forward, the majority of them are very truthful and they want help because they don't know how to navigate this. But you have to watch out for the wolves in sheep clothing that may have had some sort of abuse, but they're
Right.
actually using this instance to create a story that's not true because they're trying to personally benefit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if we'll ever believe the truth whenever we actually get it
Because of people like that who
yeah.
have muddied
Yeah.
the waters enough. I mean, it's just that simple. And, Sasha, if you want to talk to me about it, talk to me about it because I've reached out to you too many times already. And I'm a guy who's connected enough to help. I'm nobody special, but at least I've built a rapport with people that can actually get you in the right place. And you've
I'm
chosen
no
to.
Lisa Voldang.
Yeah. And I'm no Tina or Lisa while we still can podcasters.
Oh, we were so glad we found you. Okay.
Word.
Yes, no, seriously, this has actually been a great silver lining for this whole fucking mess we're in. Okay. Since your hubby's back in the car, do you want to wrap this up?
We can talk a little bit more. He's fine. He's just driving me home now, like Miss Daisy.
Yes, yes. Yeah, your Lyft driver's here. Okay, I wanted to talk about something else depressing, which is the Rape Academy.
I just learned a little bit about that, and I'm shocked more than anything. Can you fill us in on that a little?
Okay, so the Rape Academy,
Oh,
they found
that
a
is
website.
very
So, do we
devastating.
remember was it last year in France? There was the Pellicot lady. Her husband was recording her while she was sleeping after drugging her and inviting men into her home.
Yeah, I remember that. It's tragic.
Yes, yes. But she did end up actually getting justice, which is like amazing. But yeah, so I knew that if that website that men could go on,
Hmm.
over in France, I know it's here. Like, we know that it's here. And we know that a shit ton of men are probably on it. Well, someone found it, and there were 67,000 men on it. 67,000 men had visited that website to learn how to drug and rape their
Yeah.
partners and invite other people in to do it as well so they could make money. And so that goes back to the it's not all men conversation. It's not all men, but it's 67,000 of them that went to a website
Yeah.
to look at it. And, you know, I heard earlier today some analogy of the loaded gun. When you
Yes.
pick up a gun, you always assume it's loaded,
Right.
even if you know it's not. That's a perfect analogy to this situation. Um, it's terrifying. I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I don't like, some people are arguing, well, it wasn't 67,000 people, it was 67,000 visits. Or, I don't care. I don't care if there were
So what
6
exactly are
visits.
you arguing?
Like, shut up.
What's your point?
I know that's a mature
Uh,
argument, shut up.
uh,
But like,
but
have some decency. No one should be on a website like that. No one should create a website like that. And yeah,
eh,
like it makes people have done like the not all men people need to understand that like when we're walking around in the world, we have to think about men like a loaded gun. Like that's what we've been taught, all the dozens of ways we've been taught to like keep ourselves safe walking at night or in a parking lot or make sure your drink doesn't get drugged. Like that's the analogy of like every single man could be loaded to go off and hurt us, right? And stuff like this just makes it absolutely reinforced.
well, and I mean, I want to be solution oriented here. What is the root cause of this type of behavior?
They're trained to be dominating.
Yeah. And we're at a stoplight real quick, so I don't have all that. So
Yeah.
I want to join. You know,
Hmm.
I think the one thing to point out is, a lot of these men have female accomplices that are helping them in one way or the other as well.
Yeah,
And a
that's
lot
true.
of times it might be unwitting or witting in some extent. There's the depravity just doesn't go across, how men act. We just focus primarily on the men who've done this, but there's a lot of women who have willingly helped men do some of these things, and
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
we've come to a point where, years ago it was the Me Too movement, but to
Hmm.
me, we're at what I believe is a We Too moment because we
Yes.
fix this and we have to be aware of it and we all have to take responsibility for the actions of these people and do something about it.
Yeah. Well, part of the
Right.
thing is you think about it from a societal point of view. Like when from a time a guy is a little kid, I mean, the worst thing you can do is act like a girl, right? Or do anything effeminate or dress in pink or like anything feminine is like made to be disrespected or villainized. And so, you grow up like that and then and you're just trained to be that if you're not the one that's dominating, then you lose. And so for a whole lifetime you're taught that. And are we surprised that we see these things? Of course that's what's going to happen.
Well, I would hope that we could do some studying of the behavior. I know it has the stigma, but I know that I don't think that a lot of men would want to feel that way. Like something is missing, something's
Right.
wrong. I'm sure there is some portion of it that is mental health issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, probably not going to be able to fix that. But what is missing in the childhood or the life that is making them feel the need to do that? Or how can we some solutions for that problem? Because I don't think that babies don't start off like that, thinking like
No,
that.
we
So
teach them that.
The other thing to think about is that the suppression of specific urges that people have, their
yep.
entire life. And, a lot of men, they say 10% of men in the real world are gay, but, the
Right.
percentage of openly gay is completely different. And you look at all these people that, are very questionable. We all can list a number of them.
Right. Ladybug.
Yes. And they, and their actions are against the community that they actually would like to be involved in, instead be a part of, but instead they ostracize
Shame.
it, they demonize it,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's what they've been groomed to do.
Yep. Shame is a powerful.
On that note,
Anything else, Tony? You got anything else that you think we need to add in here?
No, just a reminder: be as involved as you possibly can. At the very least, pay attention and share information you see that's new to you, that's helping the cause, because it's time to fix this and listen to survivors and the people that are willing to share their stories.
And there's a lot of stories out there, and it's better. We have some work to do, guys. So let's get on it. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for listening. Shout out to all our new listeners. We appreciate you watching our YouTube videos. Thank you.
Oh yeah, like and subscribe.
Yeah. Like and subscribe.
And find Tony. I will link both. I'll link all of his stuff media at the bottom. Yeah, social media at the bottom. Okay, guys, you have a good afternoon.
You too.
You
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Tony.